Good morning, children. Today we will study about the construction of temples, mosques, and tanks. That building, how the rulers built or the patrons built these worshipping places. Why these were built? Also, we know building temples, mosques. These are all places of worship. How the rulers have built. These are all very beautifully built, and which gives, when the temple or mosque is constructed, which gives or shows us the power and wealth of the ruler or the patron. So some examples we can say that by the beautiful or elaborate construction we can understand how powerful ruler he was. One example we will take about the Rajarajeshwar temple in South India, Tamil Nadu. We can find an inscription which is written there or which is shown there that this was built by Rajarajeshwar temple was built by King Rajarajadeva for worshipping his god Rajarajeshwaram. See here, the god's name is Rajarajeshwaram and the King Rajarajadeva built the Rajarajeshwar temple. Okay, so that here how the name of the god is associated with the king, because they felt that the rulers felt that adopting the name of the god is very auspicious and very good name, so that it will give the name, adopting the god's name will give him fame and also prosperity to his kingdom. So such a way they adopted the name of the god. Also he will be appearing like a god also. When the name of god is adopted, the ruler will also will appear like a god also. Many rituals which are practiced here also we can find in the temple. One god Rajarajadeva honored another Rajarajeshwaram also. During the Mughal period also we can find that the Mughal emperors like Shah Jahan also in his chronicler and Shah Jahan's chronicler declared that the ruler was the architect of workshop of empire and religion. The ruler or is the architect of the empire. He constructs or he builds a large empire and also religion. Okay, such a way there was importance given to the religion also during the Mughal period. We can find the largest temples all were constructed by the kings only, especially in the medieval period and ancient period. All these constructions of temples were done by the very rich or prosperous kings. Others, some of the lesser deities in the temples were also gods and goddesses of the allies and subordinates of the rulers were made. We can find the large temples of the largest temples and mosques, worshipping places were constructed by the rulers, and the rulers and their allies or the smaller kings or subordinates, they also constructed the temples for the small gods, etc. So we can find also different. The temple was a kind of miniature model of the world ruled by the kings and his allies. We can find God's kingdom and on the earth. They are a replica of the God's kingdom on the earth is constructed by the temples and mosques, etc. or the worshipping places. Muslim sultans also and padshahs, they also constructed many of the mosques also. In other we can find that these rulers also wanted that they wanted to show that they are the God's representatives on the earth. Also Muslims, sultans and padshahs, they never claimed that they are the incarnation of the God. Okay, so some of the Hindu rulers, they claim that they are the incarnation, they are sent by God on the earth, or the incarnation, other form of God sent to the earth for ruling the kingdom, etc. But the Muslim rulers, they never felt that, they never claimed that they are the incarnation of God. But Persian court chronicles, we can find that Sultan is the shadow of God. That means he is the representative of God on the earth. So as the inscription of the Khawat al-Islam Mosque, which explains that God chose Alauddin Khalji as a king because he had the qualities of Moses and Solomon, the great lawgivers of the past. We can find in the Bible and Quran and all about Moses and Solomon. They were all taught the people about the law of God. So this Alauddin Khilji was also considered as the representative of God. He was sent by God on the earth for ruling the kingdom. Such a feeling or such a concept they had written in the chronicles also. Here he created, Alauddin Khilji created the world out of chaos and introduced order and symmetry, proper arrangements and proper law and order was created by him also. So we can find as each new dynasty came to power, kings wanted to emphasize their moral right to be rulers. When new dynasties were set up, they wanted to propagate that their just rule has to be introduced. Constructing places of worship, especially, we can provide rulers with a chance to proclaim their close relation with God, especially important in the age of rapid political changes. When the new dynasties were coming up, kings who used to attack other kingdoms, and they were also expanding their territories in different parts of the world, and from one area to the other, kingdoms were capturing. During this period, we know the kings they wanted to emphasize their rule, and they wanted to propagate that their own traditions to other regions also, so that they also constructed such kind of worshipping places. Rulers also offered such kind of patronage to the learned and pious, and tried to transform their capitals and cities into great cultural centers. So some of the rulers, they shifted their capital from one areas to the wherever the important cities and cultural areas were there, those regions also. And some of the rulers also gave patronage or protection and to the important personalities or very skilled personalities or scholars also, like poets or very learned personalities. Okay, in their court they gave them protection and patronage also. So during this period also, it was very widely believed that the rule of a just king would be an age of plenty, and the heavens would not withhold rain, which means if the ruler is a just ruler and kind and a good ruler, the heavens will be happy and they will not withhold rain. That means it will provide sufficient rainfall which is necessary for the agriculture, and the kingdom become very prosperous. At the same time, making precious water available by constructing tanks and reservoirs was also highly praised. Those rulers who constructed tanks and dams for collecting the water or reservoirs also were praised by the chroniclers or the people. At this period, we can find Sultan Iltutmish, who won the universal respect for constructing a large reservoir just outside Delhi-e-Kunha. So it was called the House-e-Sultani or the King's Reservoir. Sultan Iltutmish, he constructed a large reservoir outside Delhi, so that it was praised by the people all over the world, because it was also known as House-e-Sultani, which means the King's Reservoir. Rulers also often constructed tanks and reservoirs very big and small for the use of ordinary people. Also tanks, public tanks were also constructed for the people, and for the agricultural purposes dams and large tanks were also constructed. These were, sometimes we can find this type of tanks and reservoirs also part of the temple. Most of the regions we can find nearby the temples such kind of tanks and smaller lakes also we can find. And sometimes these tanks and reservoirs were parts of a temple or even mosque or a gurudwara, and these are the places of worship for the different religious people. So why were the temples targeted by the rulers? And we will study in the next class.